In the studio, I have Tomasz Maciejczuk, and you've just come back from Ukraine. But before we get to what you saw in Donbass and in and around Donetsk, I wanted to ask, where are you from?
I'm Polish. I'm from Poland, from Poznań, but my family is from Lvov. It used to be a Polish city in past, but after the Second World War, the border changed. Stalin changed our border, and Lviv is now Ukrainian city.
Sure.
So I love the city. I love that region of Ukraine, and I love to travel there. So Ukraine, just a little bit. It's my motherland.
It's like your heritage. So
my heritage.
Your background is from there. I wanted to ask you, I mean, how did you get involved with the protests on the Maidan in Kyiv? Because this is not just a recent thing you've been involved in. You've been involved with this from the very outset, right? So it's almost over a year now.
Yes, it's true. In January last year, Yanukovych killed a few people on Maidan. People who wanted to live in European Ukraine without corruption, in Ukraine without people who want to only rule, get money, and they don't care about the people, about the nation. Mm-hmm. So Maidan, for me, it was something very important. It was a road for Ukraine to Europe. They wanted to be in Europe, but Russia said, no way. There's nothing you can do. You will stay in our union, Euro-Asiatic Union,
yes.
Euro-Asian Union. And Ukrainian nation said, we don't want it. We want to be in European Union. So I wanted to help them. I wanted to help people who were staying for a long time on Maidan. We sent clothes, we sent money, medicines, and so on. We were trying to make some meetings in Poznań, Poland, in Warsaw, and so on. We wanted to show our solidarity with Ukrainian nation, and this is how I started to think about Ukrainian nation, Ukraine. And on my 2014, I went to Donbass to help Battalion Donbass with medicines, with Celox. Mm-hmm. It was very expensive for them. But I made it. I took money from my friends. It wasn't that easy, but we managed to get money, a lot of money. We bought about 50 Celox. It will be like one Celox is for about 45 euro. So
it's quite a lot of money
for us. Yes, it is. So I went to Donbass. I gave them Celox. I gave them other supports. I told them that we, Polish people, we want to help them, we support them, and they told me, if you want to stay, you can stay with us. We can show you how we fight, what we do to prevent terrorists to get Donbass, and so on. So I stayed with them. I decided I'd like to stay, and I saw death. I saw war, real war. And it was horrible. In Poland, we are not used to pictures like dead bodies, like dead people, like shooting from Kalashnikov. For me, it was something absolutely different.
Tell me, after a year, because it's been a year now since the beginning of the Maidan protests in Kyiv, how do you see the situation? We've seen the Russian rise of what has been dubbed, Novorossiya in eastern Ukraine. We've seen EU sanctions. I mean, how do you see this situation? How do you see it on the ground? I mean, you've just come back from Donbass, from Donetsk. You've seen what's been going on with your own eyes. So can you give us a picture of what is actually going on the ground?
Basically, there's a war, a horrible war. Without Putin's support, terrorists wouldn't manage to live there. Ukrainian army would just destroy them. But unfortunately, Russia has been helping them since, I don't know, May or April. And they get a lot of tanks and other stuff from Russia. Russia is sending aid
so-called humanitarian
aid, but in fact it isn't humanitarian aid. They get ammunitions, they get tanks, and so on. Without Russian help, terrorists wouldn't manage to fight against Ukrainian army. Now the situation is very tough. Ukrainian army is really struggling. The situation might be worse soon. It is possible that terrorists will attack Mariupol, Debaltseve, and Shastia, Stanica Luganska, and so on. The front line is very wide, and it is possible that terrorists will attack Kharkov. It is not far away from Russian border, so Ukraine is in danger, and I think that sanctions is not enough. Sanctions, all right, they will make Russian economy worse, but the situation will be worse only for lower class. People who have money in Russia, they don't care, and they are politicians. Putin, he really doesn't care about sanctions.
Do you think that the EU sanctions, if they are increased, which is what they're talking about now in Brussels, and they're even saying that, I mean, I heard that a representative of the UN has even said that the Russian attack on Mariupol is in fact a war crime. I heard that earlier on today on Tuesday. Do you think that these sanctions, if they are increased, do you think they will push Putin into going out to do all-out war? Because what we've seen, we've had the little green man, we've had, Russian so-called humanitarian aid, which is obviously not humanitarian at all. Do you think that with the EU pushing for these sanctions and pushing even more, that it might tip the balance and Putin might actually just go all out into Ukraine and attack it, and it'll be a regular conventional war?
I think that Russia is a country with another mentality. Russians are Europeans, but they are different. They don't care about food, about cars. They want empire. They want a big country with big military power. They think everybody is against them. The whole world wants to invade Russia, and this is Russian propaganda. This is what they think. So sanctions won't help. It won't help. I think that Europe, the United States of America, should send not troops, not soldiers, but weapons. Maybe something against Russian tanks. Russian tanks or Ukrainian tanks that were captured by terrorists. They use it, and unfortunately, Ukrainian soldiers cannot answer to attacks of tanks. They have no weapons.
But I was going to ask, I think you started to answer my question already, but would you like to see other countries send troops into Ukraine, let's say as part of a NATO-backed mission, for instance?
I think it is a bad idea, very bad idea. It might start the Third World War, and what I think is that even if we send Polish troops, Polish soldiers to Donbass, it would push Russian people to come to Donbass and fight against Polish soldiers, because Polish soldiers, generally, Russians do not like Polish people. And they say there are Polish mercenaries, Polish people fight there in Donbass, and sending troops to Donbass would push more and more Russians to that conflict. More and more Russians would come and fight. I think we can help Ukraine not by sending troops, but we can send weapons, we can help them with training, and this is what my government should think about. This is what the European Union should think about.
But do you really think that a political solution could be found to resolve this crisis?
I don't think so. I think Ukraine should just win that war, win against terrorism. The war against terrorism is very difficult because they use Grad against civilians, they use artillery against cities, and Ukraine cannot do that. If Ukrainian army tried to attack a city of, for example, Donetsk, Russian propaganda will show it and tell the world that Ukrainian army is committing war crimes. So Ukrainian position now is very tough. It's very difficult.
It's fragile, right?
It's fragile, and I think that the only solution is sending more and more tanks, more and more soldiers, and destroying terrorist forces. They don't want to. They don't want negotiations. Poroshenko, the president of Ukraine, said, "We don't want to fight. We want ceasefire." And Zakharchenko, the leader of terrorists from Donetsk, said, "No more ceasefire. We want to fight. We want to win." So, I think the only solution is war. Winning the war.
You seem to be very emotionally involved in what's going on in eastern Ukraine. But as a Pole, do you actually feel threatened about this situation?
Yes, I think that Europe is threatened by Russia. How? I think that first of all, Georgia was attacked by Russia. It was, for example, yesterday. Today, we have a problem with Ukraine. Russia attacked Ukraine. Who is next? Latvia, Estonia, and then maybe Poland. So the Eastern European countries are threatened by Russia, and the threat is big for us. The threat isn't big for example, Spain or Portugal, because they're far away from Russia. Maybe they don't understand what's going on in the eastern part of the continent. Maybe they think Russia will take only Crimea, Donbass, maybe a part of Latvia and Estonia, and that's all. But I think that Russia will go further. Russia will attack Latvia, Estonia, and then maybe Poland. Who will help us? I think nobody. That's why we have to help Ukraine today.
But Ukraine and Georgia, they're not members of NATO. I mean, of course, we have Article 5 of the Washington Treaty, which is the all for one, one for all clause. So if you have Poland, Latvia, and Estonia, these are NATO members. Do you believe that if Russia theoretically did attack any of these countries, there would be a response from NATO?
I don't think so. Russia can beat Estonia in one day. One day. What can do, for example, Obama in one day? Nothing. Sending troops to Estonia or Latvia will take for about 3 months, maybe 6 months. It's too late. It will be too late, too long. And what I think is we have to respond today, now. You said that I'm emotionally involved. Yes, I am. I lost my friends there. Even today, I received a message from Donbass, from my friend, that one of my friend of mine, died in attack of a separatist terrorist tank. So what can I do? I have to help them. I don't want anybody to die. If I could, I would end that conflict without any weapons, war, just political solution. But it is impossible. Today, terrorists want to fight. They want war. What can we do? We have to defend ourselves, and Ukraine have to defend themselves. It's very difficult, and for me it's tough, emotionally tough.
Tomasz Maciejczuk, many thanks for coming in the studio to talk with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.